Welcome to Weight Loss with Plants, brought to you by the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. I'm your host, Sharme Ridley. Today's guest has been able to accomplish the unthinkable through initial strategies and then finally embracing a plant-based way of eating. She has lost more than 200 pounds and has gained a greater outlook on her health and her life. She loves to share her story in hopes of inspiring others. Please welcome today, Denise Norris. Thank you, Denise, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share.
Okay, so let's just start off. Tell us, when did you begin having weight issues?
Well, I was looking back through some of my old pictures, and I shared one of the pictures of when I was a little girl. I was healthy, thin as a young girl, all the way through high school. It really wasn't until after high school. Well, maybe like in high school and then towards the end of high school, especially when I moved out on my own and you're poor and you can't really afford, the healthy foods. And it's just easier to buy foods that are like convenient and cheap. And so and then I was working at McDonald's too. When I was in high school, I was a manager at McDonald's. So that kind of, I ate there because it was free most of the time. So that was most of my meals was McDonald's. So that's really when it started. I blame it on McDonald's. No,
And what was your heaviest? What was the heaviest that you gotten up to?
The heaviest that I remember on a scale was 421 pounds, but I know I got heavier than that because when I saw that number on the freight scale that I had to weigh on, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to lose the weight. I might as well just eat what I want and be happy, right? So I ate whatever I wanted and I gained more. And it was like I was wearing a size 8X was my heaviest.
Yeah, but you've been extremely successful. How much have you lost so far?
I lost 235 pounds altogether. I started back in 2011. I went to Weight Watchers for like the third time. Um, but I went this time to weekly weigh-ins on Saturdays because I knew that I needed the connection. I needed accountability. You had to weigh in every Saturday, that kind of thing. So I started with them and I lost 100 pounds with them. And it was awesome. I mean, Weight Watchers taught me a lot. They taught me to focus on the 5 pounds at a time, not to look at the, 200 plus pounds that you need to lose. So I really did. I just like focused on the 5 pounds at a time. And it's funny because like when you go to the meetings, they would give you these stickers and say bravo and clap when you lost the 5 pounds. And then they'd say like, now how much have you lost total? And I'd be like, I don't know. Like I wasn't keeping track of my total, but the leader there at Weight Watchers was, and I was like, wow, I've really lost that much, So it was awesome working with them. And but then, with Weight Watchers, you got to do all the counting and the points. It's different now. They really changed it and focused on the healthy foods, but back then they didn't. And I really got tired of doing that. And I was yo-yoing back and forth with it because I wasn't eating healthy. I was counting the points and I was like forcing myself to do it. Like I would eat a bag of chips and use all my points in the beginning of the day, and then I wouldn't have anything else to eat the rest of the day. So my friend kind of talked me into, she wanted to do protectivediet.com with Julie Christensen. And she was going out to Chicago to meet her and do this weekend class with her and all this kind of stuff. So she talked me into trying it. It was a whole food plant-based diet, no oil, no sugar. They did do salt, but no nuts, no dried fruit. Like it was whole food plant-based. We did do pasta, stuff like that, which was good for me because I like to eat and I like to eat comfort food. So doing that plan, I got to eat a lot of food because I'm a volume eater. So, but I remember when we first started out, my friend Christy was like, here, try this almond milk and, switch out your regular milk. And I was like, no, that just doesn't sound good. Like milk from almonds, no. So originally I said no, but I like agreed to try it and I thought it was good. And I was like, yeah, I could make that switch. That's not that big of a deal. I can make that switch. So I did. And then I just kept trying new things. And I was like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it for 30 days. Her and I like challenged each other, do whole food plant-based for 30 days. And I lost 16 pounds the first 30 days. And I was like, okay, I felt great. And it was like that was the most I had ever lost in 1 month. So that like really boosted me and motivated me to keep going on it.
Yeah, and so take us back one step. Tell us, what was life like when you were at your heaviest, and what were some of those limitations that you encountered?
Well, it's funny because I was getting ready for this interview today, and it's been, I started that back in 2011, so it's 2022 now, so that's what, 11 years. I forgot a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with, but luckily, my good friend Carlene at Weight Watchers had given me this journal, and when I was doing it back then, I was taking pictures that I didn't like of myself, and I was putting them in this journal, and I was like writing in here what it was like. So I was going back through and reminding myself all the stuff that I struggled with, medical things like irritable bowel syndrome. I had really bad GERD, which was from I was bulimic in my 20s. So that caused like a hiatal hernia. And then I had GERD from it, and then the irritable bowel syndrome. I had really bad migraines because I was eating a lot of processed food. I was smoking. I was drinking Mountain Dew. I didn't drink water back then. Like water was in coffee, right? So I didn't eat healthy at all. I didn't eat hardly. If I ate vegetables, it was a salad with like all the cheese and bacon bits and all that stuff added on. So had a lot of problems with sinus problems. I had kidney stones. I had to have surgery twice on the kidney stones, and that was all related to my food. Um, because when I cut all that stuff out, I stopped having migraines. I stopped having to take medicine for high blood pressure. I was pre-diabetic. They wanted me to like start checking my sugar 3 times a day and taking pills, and I was like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. Let me try it. Let me try it the other way. And because of the migraines, I had also broke my leg. I fell down the stairs because I was nauseous, and so I had an open compound fracture of my lower leg, and I was like for 6 months in a wheelchair. So I gained more weight with that because I couldn't really be active. But all of that was related to my food and how much I had weighed. Um, and then when you have to deal with all that kind of stuff, then comes along all the mental stuff that goes with that baggage. The shame, the depression. I was suicidal many times. I was hopeless. I didn't think that I was ever going to get out of that big pit. I didn't think I was ever going to climb the mountain of losing more than 200 pounds. So for a long time, I did. I was in a pretty dark pit with it.
Well, what kept you going, especially after you learned about whole food plant-based eating?
Having a support system, having friends around me. I didn't have family. I mean, my parents and some family, wanted me to lose weight and get healthier and stuff. But like in my house, my husband at the time wasn't supportive of it. He didn't really want to change anything, and he didn't want me changing. But my friend Christy, and then I got online and found a support system online through like Forks Over Knives and the protectivediet.com group. I really had to stay connected to other people that were like minded and that wanted to do the same thing for themselves, which is better themselves. And then I also had to work on the inner part of me and get more connected with God. And that's where my hope came back in when I started focusing on that.
And what caused you to realize that a whole food plant-based diet was really going to help you with this?
Well, like I said, I just knew from that first month that I had done it, like how much energy I had, and even like how hopeful I felt. Like I didn't have that depression for that time. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was hard switching. I didn't do it like completely all at once either. That first month I did, but after that I kind of did a little bit at a time. But I just knew like with all my medical problems going away, my arthritis started going away, I had less pain. And it was all connected to my food. Once I started being more mindful and seeing, okay, like when I ate steak, and I would be up in the middle of the night with diarrhea and throwing up and breaking out in hives. It was horrible. I thought I had food poisoning at first. I have to learn the hard way. So it took me a few times to really like make that connection of what I was eating and how I was feeling because I wasn't a mindful person. So just being mindful of how I felt after what I ate.
And I know it for someone who has struggled with weight loss myself, it is exciting when you finally start losing weight
Oh
again.
yeah.
And so how did it feel when you realized that this way of eating was going to do it for you? What were some of those milestones that you remember noticing along the way?
Yeah, a lot of them actually. I mean, little things like being able to buy clothes in a local grocery store, a local department store, because I was like so overweight that I had to buy everything online. So the simple fact of being able to go to a store locally and buy something, that was a non-scale victory. Being able to like ride a kayak, or yeah, being a kayak and go hiking. I mean, I remember little things like being in a car and being able to buckle my seatbelt. I got 2 tickets for seatbelts like within 2 weeks of each other because I couldn't buckle my seatbelt. And then I remember looking down, and the steering wheel used to be, my belly used to be so tight up against the steering wheel that like I had trouble turning my steering wheel in my car because my belly was in the way. Well, I remember one day I was driving and I was holding a cup of coffee in between my legs, and I looked out, I was like, wow, look how much space there is, you know? Little things like that, being able to sit in a booth when you go to the restaurant, you know, not having like a panic attack, like you're like, oh no, there's no chairs, not feeling like you're going to break a chair when you sit in it. I've broken a few chairs, that's embarrassing. um I rode a roller coaster again after being kicked off of one because I was too fat for the bar to come down and like lock on me, so they kicked me off, and I was very front row because that's the best seat on the roller coaster, right? So yeah, getting on another roller coaster after that, that was pretty exciting. And just even little things like you go for a walk and you don't feel your thighs rubbing together. That's a milestone.
Yeah, and what about some of the medical improvements?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like with my migraines, I got to go. I was giving myself injections every day. I was taking like 2 to 3 preventative pills before trying to like prevent the migraines, and they still wouldn't. So I had to give myself injections. So I was able to go off all that kind of stuff, and my migraines stopped. Now my migraines have come back, but I think there's other like hormone problems and COVID and all this other stuff that's causing it. But my heartburn went away. I went off I was taking the purple pill. I was taking Tums, eating Tums constantly, drinking the Malox. I mean, it's crazy. It never went away. Now, I don't ever get heartburn anymore. My all my numbers are completely like within normal limits. I remember even tracking in here for my cholesterol and triglycerides and A1C and all kinds of stuff, and it's just really cool to see it written down. And even now, for me to go back and look through it and be like, yeah, it didn't take long at all for it to come down. My blood pressure, now people are like, oh, are you low on your blood pressure? I'm like, no, that's actually normal. People are so used to everybody having high blood pressure, but when you're normal, people are like, oh no, it's too low.
Now you're a nurse in the medical profession. Are you ever able to share this information with other people?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I do all the time. And I honestly truly believe that God has a hand in my patient assignments because the floor that I work on is a progressive care floor. It's a step down from critical care. So we get people coming in for heart attacks, for stroke, diabetic ketoacidosis, uh, things like hypertensive emergency, things that could all of those things could be either prevented or greatly reduced by what you eat, how you sleep, what you're drinking, what you're putting into your mind. You know, it's a whole picture. So yeah, I definitely share it with all my patients. I usually start it out first start of the shift. Some of them are receptive and some of them aren't. Some of them are like, you know what, I'd rather just eat my 2 burgers and give myself insulin and get my stents and go through the pain and still eat whatever I want. And I'm like, okay, we're on the same page. I'll let you do your thing, and I'll do what I can for you. But then the other people that like you can see that light come in their eyes, especially when I show them my before picture, and they're like, wow, because it doesn't even really look like me, you know. So when they see the before pictures, then they're like, wow, if you can do it, and they're like, well, how'd you do it? Because everybody thinks you did it with surgery, and I was like, no, it's just by what I ate. So then like the rest of the shift, they'll ask me questions like, well, how do you cook this, or how do you cook without oil, or what do you use instead of this? And so a lot of times I have Forks Over Knives magazines in my locker, and if it's somebody that's really, I think, going to be receptive to want to change, I'll give them one of those magazines, or any other resources that I think could help them, I'll hand it out to them. But then I also, at discharge, I created a smart phrase at work where it's about how to switch to a plant-based diet. And it talks about some of the switches you can make, like how to use tofu instead of mayonnaise, and they get links for the websites to go to, like Forks Over Knives and Dr. Greger, nutritionfacts.org. I'm a real, because I don't know if it's because I'm a nurse, but I want to see the science behind it. I want to see the evidence that this is a healthy way for you to live, and that it is going to help your body and not harm it. So, like, Dr. Colin Campbell and the China study, and knowing about how animal products turn on your cancer cells and how it can quickly turn it off. I mean, that kind of stuff is exciting for me because I think it's amazing. And I think it's amazing how God created our bodies, and everybody's a little bit different, but he wants us all to be healthy. So you got to look at the evidence and look at how it can be your medicine and not something that will harm you. So yeah, I definitely share it with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about people around you? People that are not in your work life but your regular life, and they've seen you change along the way. What are some reactions that
Yeah,
you've
it's
gotten?
kind of neat because when I moved here to this house 14 years ago, I got my dog Charlie, and I was I was really overweight then. I was like 400, 500 pounds. I couldn't hardly walk at all. I mean, I have a pretty long driveway. So sometimes when I first started, I was training him as a puppy, we would just make it to the end of the driveway and back. And then eventually we started going down to the end of the street and back, and then around the little block, and then around the bigger block. So 13 years later, all my neighbors have seen us walking every day. When I first started doing this, I was working from home, and he was a puppy, had so much energy. So sometimes 3 times a day we would be out there walking, even if it was only for 15 minutes. And it's funny because a lot of the neighbors would comment, they're like, well, we've seen you walking up and down these streets and you're shrinking before our eyes. And they're like, what are you doing? So I share it with them too, and help them, and they'll come up to me later and be like, yeah, I tried that switch and it was really good. I could do it. Just simple things. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Take us through a day of eating. What are some of the typical things that you would eat, especially when you were on your way to success as far as your weight loss is
Potatoes.
concerned?
I ate a lot of potatoes. I love potatoes. I can eat potatoes like any way you want to fix them. That's my comfort food. I mean, potato wedges, I love. ProtectiveDiet.com has the buffalo potato wedges with ranch dressing that you dip it in. And then I would always try to do like a 50-50 plate, like 50% starches and 50% non starchy vegetables, because I mean I can sit down with a whole I told you I'm a volume eater. Like, I have a binge eating disorder in my past as well as bulimia. But like, I can sit down with a whole tray full, like cookie sheet full of potato wedges and eat the whole thing myself with a whole thing of ranch dressing made out of dip. So I was like, and that worked for me for a while. When I was like 400 pounds and I was doing that, I was like 300 pounds by then. I was still losing weight, which was awesome. I was like, let's keep eating it. But then you get to the point where you get smaller and you got to start tweaking things and start paying attention to the portion sizes. So then I'd be like, okay, let's do half a tray of potato wedges and then a salad with it. So potato wedges and salad, I love. Um, Oatmeal for breakfast. Ate a lot of oatmeal with blueberries. I try to follow Dr. McGregor's, or not Dr. McGregor, Dr. Greger with nutritionfacts.org. I try to follow his daily checklist thing where you get your blueberries, your flaxseed, your onions, your mushrooms, your beans, all that kind of stuff. So like, it's almost like a checklist now when I fix my stuff. Like today, I got stuff in the grocery store to make a burrito bowl because I work 12-hour shifts. So I plan ahead of time and I'll make large batches of stuff and then freeze it. Cause like I made a large batch of um, beans and rice. And I ate half of it for a week and I got tired of it. And I was like, well, let's freeze the other half. And now I'm like, oh, I got that in there. I got to work the next 6 days out of 7. So I'm like, what am I going to cook? Well, I had that in the freezer. So I thawed out. I got some romaine lettuce and tomatoes. And I'm going to make ranch dressing and guacamole. And I have a local store here that I can buy my tortillas from a Mexican place that is just corn and water and salt. So I cut them up and I make my own chips out of them. So I don't have the oil. So I'm having burrito bowls this week. I gotta have stuff that like I liked before, but I turned it into a healthier version of it. Like I love the Mexican, I love Chinese food, Thai food, um, Italian food. But I mean, I could still eat the same things, just in a healthier version of it. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of the person that like I'll eat the same thing over and over. The simpler, the better, because I don't want to have to meal prep and plan. I used to when I first started, but now it's too much work. Just keep it simple, you know?
And it's kind of hard to eat when you're going out as well. Do you have any tricks that you've come up with over the years on that?
Well, not really, because there's really not many places around here that I could actually, there's no place around here that I can get food without oil. I will occasionally, like if I'm traveling or once in a while, like Chipotle with the burrito bowls, or the lifestyle bowls, so you get more of the greens in with it. So I'll eat from there. We have a McAllister's Deli. You can get those big potatoes, and you get the veggie chili on it. I'll eat that, and I get like steamed broccoli with it, and that's a pretty big plate full of food, you know. And then like some of the Italian restaurants, we have a Gallows Italian restaurant. I can get like the pasta, and I just tell them load up the vegetables, leave off the animal products, and I tell them no oil, but you can see it when it comes. You know they did it. But I don't do it all the time either. You know, it's once in a while. It's when I go out with my friends, and I know that oil causes inflammation and it increases my arthritis. So I pay attention to how I'm feeling, and I know I'm eating too much oil if I'm hurting. You know.
Right, right. So, what advice would you give to someone who saw your story and that person had, 150, 200 pounds to lose? What advice would you give that person if he or she were open to a plant-based lifestyle?
Well, a few different things. First, you got to motivate yourself. You got to get some inspiration. You got to find some hope again. Um, so I went when I first started. I went and I looked at success stories, like watching these things and seeing the pictures. And I would actually Google. I'm 5 foot. I was 5'11" now. I'm 5'10" now. But I would Google like my height, my weight, and say like weight loss success stories and see what they did and just like see their kind of transformation. And it just gives you hope that if they did it, why can't I do it? God is no respecter of persons. If you did it for somebody else, He can do it for you. So find your motivation. Go watch things and motivate yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. Take responsibility. Even if you had a crappy past, we all have crappy past and things that we had to get past, right? But now you can make the choice that you tomorrow will be better for yourself. So start with your very next meal. Find a way with your very next meal. What is in my house around me that I can make that healthier? Add something green into it. The next meal, add a little bit more green into it. Try to find ways to sneak the green in. When I first started, I didn't like a lot of stuff. And I would be so mad because I would make a recipe and like buy it and spend the time to make it. And then I didn't like it. And I threw out a few of them that I was like, yeah, I can't eat that. And now they're my favorite things. So you have to give yourself some time to let your taste buds change. But before that happens, find one or two things that you can really dig into. You'd be like, okay, yeah, I can eat that for a while and I can get by on it, and then find ways to sneak things in. I would sneak greens in, like spinach. You can't really taste spinach if you cut it up small enough and put it in soups or casseroles, or like when I made macaroni and cheese, not the cheese sauce, but cheese sauce. I would put in peas and broccoli, and so I was still felt like I was getting something good with the mac and cheese, but I was putting in more veggies with it. So find ways to sneak in your veggies and do like I would do green smoothies and just I would pack my Vitamix like 3/4 of the way full of spinach and then a little bit of fruit to sweeten it up. So yeah, do what you can to add in more and just keep adding in more of the good stuff. Don't sit there and worry, because I used to do this and be like, well, I can never eat chips again, or I can never have chocolate again, or I can never have this again. You get into that like fatal mindset that I'm never going to eat again. And trust me, I've had some problems with this, because like when I gave up cheese was so hard to give up. But when I gave up cheese, I was like, I'm never going to eat again. So I'm going to eat all the cheese stuff I want, right? I had cheese pizza, cheese sticks, like cheese on everything. Well, I was constipated for like 2 weeks. And that helped me like give it up, because I was like, I'm never going to eat cheese again. So don't like tell yourself, don't focus on what you can't have anymore. or what you shouldn't have anymore, because then you start restricting yourself, and that's all you want to think about is like, that's all I'm going to eat, right? So just focus on it, trying to make it healthier. What can you do today that is better today than it was yesterday? And just keep doing that every day, and eventually you'll get there. You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, sound advice. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
uh I think the thing that I want people to know too is that, because like I said, I've lost 235 pounds, but it's been since 2011. So in this journey, you can't, because what I did was I was like, when I can get to this size, I'll be happy. And I didn't. I got down to a size 8, and you'll see one of the pictures, the one that I'm standing up in front of the love sign. That's my thinnest that I got to. And I look back on it now, I was like, man, I got skinny. And I didn't even think I was skinny then, like I thought I was still fat. So you got to work on your mind too. You got to work on the inner part of you and renew your mind and take your thoughts captive, and really be mindful and grateful of where you're at in your journey. And that will help you have the peace now, so you can have joy now, so that you can, do what you have to do to better yourself, like exercise and walk and drink water and go to bed on time and shut your electronics off. Like, it's not just about the food. Healing yourself and maintaining that healing and that weight loss is never going to end. Trust me, because I got down to that size 8, and I was like, well, this is the best it's going to get. I might as well eat me some peanut butter. And then I had a whole jar of peanut butter in one day. I put it on everything. And then it just like spiraled from there. I was like, well, at least it's vegan. And even though it was sugary, and then I started into the binging and the addictions again. So I gained like 60 pounds back after losing that, with COVID and menopause and divorce and just like a lot of different things. So yes, eat your fruits and vegetables and whole foods, but if you're going to maintain it, you got to stay focused, and you have to do the work on the rest of the stuff. You got to heal what got you there in the first place.
Exactly. Well, Denise, thank you so much for being our guest today. We wish you continued success on your weight loss journey and in just your healthy life.
Thank you so much. And I'm so grateful that you offered to let me come on and share my story. And I just hope that it will inspire just one person, that, if I, like I said, if I can do it, you can do it too.